Okay, go over some simple EQing. I don't know a lot. I just watched a video on some basics. And essentially everything has a place frequency wise to sound good. And if you have too many sounds on the same frequency, it's gonna sound jumbled up and not very clean. So just I don't really know what I'm doing most of the time. I do for some things, and then others I just make it sound good or how I want it to sound. And then I test it with everything else that is going on, and then I'll change stuff up. But um, frequency is also good to notch out bad sounds. Say you have a clip or whatever you're doing, you don't like a particular frequency, you can notch that out and kind of hide that sound. So it's really a crucial tool. Um, so I'll just play this little intro and whatever, and then I'll go over some of the parts. Let's see if it'll run. It's literally too much for it to handle. Let's see. Alright, so bad example. I guess Apple can't record a video and listen to it, so I'll just go over a few of these pieces that I have. Um, so first off, I got this little clip, this little piano chord. Um, this is it. Alright, so literally can't even play one piece of it. Um, Whatever, we'll just go into our EQ. Um, Compression, I can't, it's just something you gotta research. It's hard to explain and it seems pointless to me sometimes, but it does make a difference. So we'll go into our EQ. So this is kind of the weird little funky shape that I put on this little sample just to kind of make it sound better. Um, so we'll let it play. We can at least see the frequencies, kind of. So as you can see from, uh, you know, the lowest decibel that you can hear up to 50, I have all the way notched out. So all these low ends I have notched out. That way there's room for bass, the kick, whatever. Um, I have a stack of 3 pianos. This is my lowest one. So I kind of notched in a little bit of those frequencies. Um, and I like to just kind of follow the shape of what I'm getting. Depending on what it is, I might cut all of this out and just take this 2 to 700 um, range. And then also I notched out the high frequencies because on these other pianos, that's actually what I'm using those for. So you can kind of hear it through the fucked up playback. But so there's one. It's nearly all like the high frequencies, but those together built up. Um, they just kind of blend nicely, and so I can really touch on the high frequencies here and hit the low ones there. It's just a good way to bring light to it. And then that one's even higher, so we'll just look at this frequency real quick. So I got some weird stuff going on. Like I said, with the notching out, when I was playing this, right here I was getting a real weird sound. So what I did is I just cut all that out. So yeah, and then the other one, I had the frequencies around here, boosting them up. This one I got the higher end. So lastly, I'll just go over some of the drums, how I EQ them. So our kick, generally usually the same for most kicks. All right, I haven't EQ'd that yet. It's a process. So even though you can't hear it, you can see the kicks kind of boosting around 50 to 100. So what I would do is my bass line is actually taking up a lot of this space. So you'll listen to it and you want to just listen to that single instrument and see how it sounds as you change this. But essentially what I'm doing here, you can kind of hear it coming in, is right above this zero, I'm kind of boosting my kick. And I'm cutting out some of those lower ones. What the fuck? So kicks, their main range is usually around here. So depending on how you want it to sound, you can just cut all that out. And I usually cut the highs out. But it all depends like how you want it to sound. And you just basically play it by ear. But that's just kind of some general EQing tips. I feel like you don't have to know what you're doing exactly. You can just kind of go by ear and see how it sounds. Now I wish it worked properly so you could hear EQ on and off. So right here, I'm not boosting them. If you look at it, I'm boosting them a little bit in certain parts. You can actually, boost certain parts way up to make it ring out. That's what I like to do with snares. Snares hit around the 200 range, and you'll actually see like a straight line in this going up. So what I'll do is I'll actually accent that, and it'll give your snare a nice punch, rather than just having nothing on it. It just kind of brings whatever sound into light properly. So right here, here's my snare. That's where my main snare is hitting. So I've got that boosted way up, so it gives it a nice punch. So yeah, I just kind of followed the lines. I found the sound I wanted. You just tweak it until you find what you like. So just on all your tracks on that template, I would go ahead and set up that EQ and maybe some reverb just to play around with. But EQ is the main thing, and as you go along, try to EQ the sounds as you go. It's hard sometimes. Sometimes I'll just like get in the groove and be working. But the last thing you want to do is actually, let me open that back up. Say you're putting something down and you're really enjoying it, and you kind of like wrap everything up. The last thing you want to do is have to go through and all these channels, EQ everything and add your effects along with it. If you just start it from the start and have, you know, your basic plugins already on the channel setting, and then as you make, you know, say you write your intro, um, go ahead and EQ that, and you know, add reverb to certain parts, or you know, add an effect to a certain part. Just kind of, you know, make it sound your own, and EQ it so it all sounds good, and it'll save you the hassle of going through all this, EQing that, and then mastering it. It's just, it's much easier to stay organized as you go. So that's all I got for EQing. That's all I know. Um, so yeah.